Recorded Books and RB Digital present Moving Forward Sideways Like a Crab by Shani Mootoo. Narrated by Graham Rowat and Kevin R. Free.
From Sydney's Notebook. Surely it is a failure of our human design that it takes not an hour, not a day, but much, much longer to relay what flashes through the mind with the speed of a hummingbird's wing. There is so little time left now, and what Jonathan wants to know and I to say are not the same. I realize Jonathan is a grown man and can surely take whatever words I offer him, but what good would come of it if I were to tell him how, 10 years into my relationship with his mother, India, she informed me that I was a disappointment? I would not want to encourage him to consider this, lest in doing so he concur. Nor does he need to know that there was a time after his mother and I first met, in those months before he was born, when India would ask after our lovemaking, "How did you know to do that?" Does he need to know that she gripped my shoulders and trembled? Or should he know? I wonder if he would believe it. He certainly doesn't need to know that after his birth, India and I grew cool with each other. And yet, nearly 10 years later, when we broke apart, I hadn't stopped loving her. Should he know that? He would likely scoff at this pathetic admission. It might even appall him. After India and I first met, in the months before I moved into our house, I saw my physical upkeep as part of a daily drama between her and me, and I made a job of keeping my body trim and groomed, my clothing and sheets washed and pressed, my shoes polished, my kitchen and bathroom clean and tidy, wine in the fridge and chocolate on my bedside table. 10 years later, the list of what it turned out I was inept at doing included putting up shelving in her office, organizing and cleaning the parts of the house where Jonathan and I spent time, enjoying myself, or at least giving the appearance of such, at parties thrown by a publisher and by various literary festivals. I didn't make well enough of myself as an artist to be recognized by her peers. I failed to take Jonathan away often enough, or long enough that she could have time to write. I indulged Jonathan too much. My rendition of our rupture is, of course, one-sided, perhaps a little flippant, the rewriting of cold facts encouraged by time and distance. I once asked her, "And you and me?" To which her response was a gesture of her hand toward and down the length of my body, a delicate non-verbalization of waning desire. After this, the relationship could not be sustained. It was India who spoke the words first, and a short time later, declaring the obvious was as good as insisting upon it. Over the course of a few months, we became territorial, keeping our belongings, our agendas, our thoughts to ourselves. Then one day, I came home to find Charlie Bream standing in the doorway between the dining room and the kitchen. I couldn't see India, but knew she was in the kitchen. Bream was almost as tall as the height of the doorway. He wore the whitest dress shirt I'd ever seen, long sleeves rolled just below his elbow, and grey wool trousers. He turned and, although I had never met him before, greeted me, as if he and I were old buddies. I sat on the bench in the hallway, taking much longer to remove my shoes than was necessary. Bream's trousers were thick and heavy, and a black leather belt hugged him just below his waist. His black cap-toe Oxfords with their blonde inserts were neatly placed on the shoe mat. They were made in Italy, size 44. One notices everything in such an instant. From where I sat, I could smell Bream's cologne. India, who in the 10 years we had lived together would not boil an egg, was grilling croissants with ham and cheese. I was offered one, but declined and went upstairs to Jonathan's room. There I waited for Bream to leave. I lay on Jonathan's bed and looked down the length of my own body. I had indeed let myself go. I could hear Bream's voice and India's. They spoke evenly, and at a normal volume, which seemed as brazen as if they had been whispering. Charlie Bream didn't last, and he was not, it turned out,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?